Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome back to today's Tolkien Times. I'm the Man of the West, also from the Prancing Pony podcast. Like I mentioned on Monday, I'm sticking with the poetry and songs from The Lord of the Rings for Series 8's readings on Third Age Thursday. The feedback from you all was very encouraging. Today we're going to be looking at a moment in Chapter 12 of Book 1, Flight to the Ford. Now this is after Frodo has been stabbed on Weathertop and things are looking a bit grim. Strider and the hobbits stumble across the trolls from Bilbo's adventures, the ones turned to stone. Once they realized their fears were unnecessary, we read. They all laughed. Frodo felt his spirits reviving. The reminder of Bilbo's first successful adventure was heartening. The sun, too, was warm and comforting, and the mist before his eyes seemed to be lifting a little. They rested for some time in the glade and took their midday meal right under the shadow of the troll's large legs. "Won't somebody give us a bit of a song while the sun is high?" said Merry, when they had finished. "We haven't had a song or a tale for days." "Not since Weathertop," said Frodo. The others looked at him. "Don't worry about me," he added. "I feel much better, but I don't think I could sing. Perhaps Sam could dig something out of his memory." "Oh, come on, Sam," said Merry. "There's more stored in your head than you let on about." "Oh, I don't know about that," said Sam. "But how would this suit? It ain't what I call proper poetry, if you understand me, just a bit of nonsense. But these old images here brought it to mind." Standing up with his hands behind his back as if he was at school, he began to sing to an old tune, and I'm not going to sing, so don't ask me to. Troll sat alone on his seat of stone and munched and mumbled a bare old bone. For many a year he had gnawed it near, for meat was hard to come by, done by, gum by. In a cave in the hills he dwelt alone, and meat was hard to come by. Up came Tom with his big boots on, said he to Troll, "Pray what is yon? For it looks like the shin of my nuncle Tim, as should be aligned in the graveyard, cave-yard, pave-yard. This many a year has Tim been gone, and I thought he were lying in the graveyard." "My lad," said Troll, "this bone I stole, but what be bones that lie in a hole? Thy nuncle was dead as a lump of lead afore I found his shin bone, tin bone, thin bone. He can spare a share for a poor old troll, for he don't need his shin bone." Said Tom, "I don't see why the likes of thee without axe and leave should go making free with the shank of the shin of my father's kin, so hand the old bone over, rover, trover. Though dead he be, it belongs to he, so hand the old bone over." "For a couple of pins," says Troll and grins, "I'll eat thee too and gnaw thy shins. A bit of fresh meat will go down sweet. I'll try my teeth on thee now. He now, see now. I'm tired of on old bones and skins, I've a mind to dine on thee now." But just as he thought his dinner was caught, he found his hands had hold of naught. Before he could mind, Tom slipped behind and gave him the boot to larn him, warn him, darn him. A bump of the boot on the seat, Tom thought, would be the way to larn him. But harder than stone is the flesh and bone of a troll that sits in the hills alone. As well set your boot to the mountain's root, for the seat of a troll don't feel it, peel it, heal it. Old Troll laughed when he heard Tom groan, and he knew his toes could feel it. Tom's leg is game since home he came, and his bootless foot is lasting lame. But Troll don't care, and he's still there with the bone he boned from its owner. Donor, boner. Troll's old seat is still the same, and the bone he boned from its owner. "Well, that's a warning to us all," laughed Merry. "It is as well you used a stick and not your hand, Strider." "Where did you come by that, Sam?" asked Pippin. "I've never heard those words before." Sam uttered something inaudible. "It's out of his own head, of course," said Frodo. "I'm learning a lot about Sam Gamgee on this journey. First he was a conspirator, now he's a jester. He'll end up by becoming a wizard or a warrior." "I hope not," said Sam. "I don't want to be neither." Now, a few things about this poem. First, it was originally going to be the song that Frodo sang at the Prancing Pony Inn, all the way back in Chapter 9, but it got moved here after Tolkien decided that they encountered Bilbo's old trolls. Now, Sean and I talked about this way back in episode 124 of the PPP. Go back to that if you want more. The troll song was based on a poem that Tolkien wrote called The Root of the Boot, and that was included in the very rare book Songs for the Philologists. That was printed in 1936, but the poem itself is even older than that. Tolkien wrote it originally in 1926 as Boot and Bottom. And for those without Songs for the Philologists, which would be all but about a dozen people in the world, The Root of the Boot is available in Douglas Anderson's The Annotated Hobbit, as well as in The Return of the Shadow, with some additional corrections made by Tolkien later. And I imagine it's in the new Hammond and Skull collection, which I don't have yet. Anyway, the version of the poem published here in The Lord of the Rings is also included as the Stone Troll in The Adventures of Tom Bombadil. But I highly recommend checking out the earlier version as well. It's always interesting to see the evolution of these poems in Tolkien's work. And The Root of the Boot does have a slightly different feel from this poem, with also a slightly different rhyme scheme, and some fascinating speculation on the fate of Nuncle Tim's soul in the afterlife. Now, it's sung, and no, I will not sing it, do not ask, to the tune of a real-world tune. The Fox Went Out on a Winter's Night, or on a Chilly Night, depending on where you find it. Now, you can find renditions of that tune on YouTube and just sing along with the words from the Stone Troll. Just don't expect me to do that. Finally, a bit of explanation on some of the words. Hammond and Skull tells us that pin is often used to mean something cheap or worthless. So here, it wouldn't take much to make me eat you too, is what the troll is saying. Larn, you probably know, is a dialectical form of learn. So Tom thinks he's going to teach the troll a lesson. He's going to learn him a lesson. And finally, to bone something is to steal it. So the troll simply stole the bone from its owner. Now, my favorite one, though, has to be my nuncle. As you've probably guessed, it's a play on mine uncle. Hammond and Skull explain that Tolkien is making a comment on the practice in Middle English whereby the n of a preceding indefinite article an, or the possessive pronoun mine, was frequently transferred to a following word beginning with a vowel. This is very common in Middle English. It's called meta-analysis or rebracketing, and it happens naturally when people say common phrases like mine uncle all the time. Over time, speakers of some regional dialects stop thinking of it as mine uncle and start thinking of it as my nuncle, especially when they don't see it written. Another example of that is the word apron, derived from a mistaken division into an apron of the Middle English a napron, from Old French naperon, a little cloth, from Latin nappa, a napkin. Now, adder is probably the other most well-known example, derived from Middle English natter, through people mishearing a natter as an adder. And there you have it. Folks, thank you for joining me for this week's Third Age Thursday with a little extra Word Nerd Wednesday included. We get some extra poetry over these next 8 weeks as I return to First Age Fridays starting tomorrow, where we'll keep reading through the Lay of Lathian. Check out patreon.com/Tolkien Times to learn how you can support the show, get an ad-free feed, join my content council, get a bonus episode every week, and more. And please join me again tomorrow on today's Tolkien Times for more quality cantos. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Follow or subscribe in your podcast apps, and follow @Tolkien Times on all your social media. Finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.